To hear this and many more audiobooks not available on YouTube in a podcast feed, please visit the first link in the description below, and thank you for your support. The Governance of China, Volume 4, by Xi Jinping. Audiobook, Part 6, Towards a Modern Socialist Country. Major points on the recommendations of the CPC Central Committee for formulating the 14th Five-Year Plan for Economic and Social Development and Long-Range Objectives through the year 2035. Part of the explanation of the recommendations of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China for formulating the 14th Five-Year Plan for Economic and Social Development and Long-Range Objectives through the year 2035, made at the 5th plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee, October 26, 2020. The recommendations in this draft report present some important points. I would like to offer brief explanations on several of them. First, on promoting high-quality development. According to the recommendations, China should focus on promoting high-quality development during the 14th Five-Year Plan period, 2021 to 2025. This is based on a sound assessment of the stage, environment, and conditions for our country's development. That China is still in the primary stage of socialism and will remain so for a long time to come. That China is still the largest developing country in the world. That development remains the CPC's top priority in governance. It should be emphasized that during the new era and at this new stage, we must follow the new development philosophy and ensure high-quality growth. Today, the principal challenge facing Chinese society is the gap between the people's growing expectation for a better life and imbalanced and insufficient development. All challenges and problems impeding our development derive from quality of growth. Therefore, we must place more emphasis on the quality of growth, so as to improve the quality and effectiveness of development. The world is undergoing change on a scale unseen in a century, and the external environment for our development is becoming increasingly complex. To avoid or address all kinds of risks and hazards and proactively act against the challenges arising from the changes in external circumstances, the key is to manage our own affairs well. We need to raise the quality of growth, improve international competitiveness, build our composite national strength and our capability to withstand risks, and safeguard national security so as to ensure economic stability and sustainability and social harmony and order. We should achieve high-quality development in the economy, society, culture, the eco-environment, and all other fields. When we focus on promoting high-quality development, we must follow the new development philosophy. We will take supply-side structural reform as the main theme, put quality and effectiveness first, transform the development model, and improve the quality, efficiency, and drivers of economic growth so that the fruits of development will become real benefits enjoyed by all the people and their desire for a better life will be consistently met. Second, on creating a double development dynamic with the domestic economy as the mainstay and the domestic economy and international engagement providing mutual reinforcement. This is a strategic decision designed to raise our economic level in keeping with the times, and to give ourselves a new edge in international economic cooperation and competition. Since the launch of reform and opening up in 1978, and especially after China's accession to the World Trade Organization in 2001, we have become more deeply involved in the global economy, rising as the world's factory with both ends of the production process, the supply of resources, and the sale of products on the international market. This has contributed enormously to our rapid growth and the improvement in people's lives. In a changing global political and economic landscape, in recent years, globalization is meeting with growing opposition. Some countries are moving rapidly towards unilateralism and protectionism, and traditional international engagement is weakening. In such circumstances, we must build firm on domestic foundations for development and exploit the domestic market as an engine for economic growth. With a population of 1.4 billion and a per capita GDP exceeding US $10,000, China has become the largest consumer market in the world with more potential to boost consumption than any other country. We have encountered various external risks and threats since reform and opening up. However, we have always managed to withstand risks by doing well on the home front with a focus on domestic development. To create the new development dynamic, we must focus on driving domestic demand. Our production, distribution, circulation, and consumption should depend more on the domestic market and form a virtuous cycle in the national economy. To this end, we will continue supply-side structural reform, adapt the supply system more closely to domestic demand, eliminate bottlenecks in economic flows, and upgrade the industrial and supply chains. In doing so, we will make the domestic market the major source of aggregate demand and boost a higher-level dynamic equilibrium in which demand drives supply and supply creates demand. The new development dynamic is not a closed loop, but a blend of domestic and international economic flows. A large-scale domestic economy that functions smoothly will certainly attract resources from all over the world. This will both satisfy domestic demand and develop our industrial and technological capabilities, opening up a new horizon for China's participation in international economic cooperation and competition. Third, on economic growth targets during the 14th five-year plan period and through the year of 2035. During the process of soliciting opinions, some regions and departments suggested setting a clear growth rate target for the 14th five-year plan period and the goal of doubling GDP or per capita income through 2035. Based on careful research and calculation of our capabilities and conditions for economic development, the drafting group believes that it is feasible for our country to maintain long-term steady growth, and China will very likely become a high-income economy, according to the current threshold, by the end of the 14th five-year plan period and double its GDP or per capita income by 2035. However, we should be aware that the world economy may stagnate due to the potential instability and uncertainty of the external environment in the coming years. The potential threats to our domestic economic growth and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have therefore decided to place more emphasis on optimizing the economic structure in the medium and long-term plan and guide all sectors to prioritize the quality and effectiveness of development in their work. The Central Committee makes recommendations to determine the general direction and overall strategies. The draft report defines qualitative objectives, which in turn point to specific quantifiable requirements for the 14th five-year plan and the 2035 vision. The relevant quantitative goals can be set on the basis of careful calculation when formulating the outline for the 14th five-year plan for economic and social development and long-range objectives through the year 2035. Fourth, on promoting common prosperity for all. As an essential requirement of socialism and a shared aspiration of the people, common prosperity is our ultimate goal in social and economic development. Since the founding of the PRC in 1949, and especially following the launch of reform and opening up, our party and our people have worked without respite on the path to common prosperity, and the country's standard of living has steadily improved. After the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, we made poverty elimination our top priority, and eventually succeeded in bringing all rural residents living below the current poverty line out of poverty, which represents a major step towards common prosperity. Today, imbalanced and insufficient development is still a prominent problem, and the development and income gaps between urban and rural areas and between different regions remain wide. Common prosperity is a long-term goal, however, following the realization of a moderately prosperous society in all respects. As we start on a new journey towards a modernized socialist country by every measure, we must give greater priority to this task and devote more active, sustained, practical, and effective efforts in this regard. The draft report states that more obvious and substantive progress will have been made towards common prosperity for all by 2035 in the long-range plan, and lays emphasis on firmly promoting common prosperity in the section on improving the quality of people's lives, along with some other important requirements and measures. Our party has used these expressions for the first time in a plenary session document to direct the orientation and define the goals. They are based on the realities and conform to the laws governing development, striking a balance between what is necessary and what is feasible so that we may implement them better and more proactively as we advance non-stop on the path towards common prosperity. Fifth, on synergizing development and security. We have become more aware that security is a prerequisite for development, and development guarantees security. Our country is exposed to the risk of various problems and dangers now and in the future, and risks, both foreseeable and unforeseeable, are on the increase. We must ensure both development and security, be better aware of the opportunities and risks we face, and always have plans in place to respond to worst-case scenarios. We should think harder and more deeply, close loopholes, strengthen areas of weakness, and make preemptive moves to deal with various risks and challenges so as to ensure smooth progress in our socialist modernization drive. Based on the above analysis, the draft report devotes a special section to the work of ensuring both development and security and of modernizing national defense and the armed forces. It emphasizes the need for a holistic approach to national security, for strengthening the national security system and capabilities, and for consolidating the national security shield. Sixth, on persevering with systems thinking. The draft states that systems thinking is a principle that must be followed for economic and social development during the 14th five-year plan period. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the Central Committee has been planning and pushing forward all undertakings of the party and the state in a systematic and coordinated manner, in line with the new realities we face. It has formed a series of new plans and policies, and led all party members and the Chinese people onward to new successes. In this process, systems thinking provides a fundamental method of thinking and working. Once we achieve moderate prosperity in all respects, we will begin a new journey towards the goal of building a modern, socialist country. We will face in-depth and complex changes in our development environment. The problem of imbalanced and insufficient development will remain, and the conflicts in economic and social development are tangled and complex. We must commit ourselves to systems thinking when drafting plans and addressing these challenges, make efforts to achieve progress in various fields, and advance socialist modernization in a comprehensive and coordinated manner. Seventh, on the realization of a moderately prosperous society in all respects, and the time to announce it. After entering the 21st century, our party set a goal to be achieved by its centenary, to build a higher-level, moderately prosperous society in an all-round way to the benefit of over 1 billion people. This was a solemn promise to the Chinese people. Since the Central Committee defined the strategy for building a moderately prosperous society at the initial stage of reform and opening up, we have worked hard over several decades to meet the people's desire for a better life. During the 13th five-year plan period, 2016 to 2020, which was the decisive stage for realizing this goal, new successes have been achieved. We have focused on top priorities, addressed shortcomings, and overcome weaknesses. We have also taken solid steps to forestall and diffuse major risks, carried out targeted poverty elimination, and prevented and controlled pollution. The outbreak of COVID-19 had a detrimental impact on our economic and social development. However, under the firm leadership of the Central Committee and through the joint efforts of all the people, we have achieved a strategic success in the prevention and control of the epidemic. China leads the world in reviving the economy and restoring social order. Major economic indicators have rebounded and livelihoods have been guaranteed. It is estimated that our GDP will exceed renminbi 100 trillion this year, and our standard of living will improve significantly. All the rural population living below the current poverty line will be raised from poverty. All the objectives for development set in the 13th five-year plan will be fulfilled on time, and the goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects will be achieved as scheduled. as the building of a moderately prosperous society is still in progress. The draft report expresses that a decisive victory has been achieved in building a moderately prosperous society in all respects. Sometime in the early months of next year, the Central Committee will make a systematic assessment and review of our work towards the goal before officially announcing that it has been successfully completed. March towards the second centenary goal. Part of the speech at the second full assembly of the 5th plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee, October 29, 2020. Through generations of hard work, we are now very close to the first centenary goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects and to eradicating absolute poverty. We will embark on our journey towards the second centenary goal next year. At this critical moment, we should know that we have built up considerable development momentum and that we have all the foundations, conditions, and abilities to secure another great victory. But at the same time, we need to be alert to the unprecedented complexity of an environment in which various problems overlap and risks and challenges are escalating. We should adopt a historical and holistic approach, have a sound view on future development, and see through the mass of complexities influencing international and domestic affairs. Remaining calm in the face of danger, we should seek to turn crises into opportunities, open up new dimensions in our work, and achieve our strategic goal of national rejuvenation, while dealing with global change on a scale unseen in a century. From an international perspective, these changes are still gathering momentum, and the environment is becoming increasingly complex. On the one hand, peace and development remain the underlying trends of our times. A new revolution in science, technology, and industry continues to develop. The international balance of power is undergoing profound readjustment, and the idea that humanity belongs to one community of shared future has taken deep root in people's hearts. On the other hand, instability and uncertainties are spreading globally. The COVID-19 pandemic will have far-reaching consequences. Opposition to globalization is on the rise. Populism and xenophobia are gaining ground. Unilateralism, protectionism, and hegemony are posing a threat to world peace and development, and profound and complex changes are reshaping the international economic, political, cultural, security, and scientific and technological landscape. We should correctly understand the key factors that will determine the course of these unprecedented changes and look to seize the strategic initiative. Domestically, we enjoy many strengths and favorable conditions for further development. While facing a number of difficulties and challenges, it is essential to take a comprehensive, dialectical, and long-term perspective and open up new areas for development. First, we should have an in-depth understanding of how the principal challenge facing Chinese society is evolving and devise a more systematic solution to imbalanced and insufficient development. Currently, the major problems affecting China's development are as follows. Our capacity for innovation cannot satisfy the need for high-quality development. As the foundation of the country, agriculture is not strong enough. The urban-rural divide, regional disparity, and income inequality are all considerable. There is much work to do in eco-environmental protection. There are shortcomings in social governance and social security. All these problems stem from our country's imbalanced and insufficient development. This imbalance is manifested between regions, fields, and sectors, and imposes restraints on overall development. Insufficient development makes China's all-round socialist modernization a time-consuming and difficult endeavor. In order to address these issues, we must adhere to the worldview and methodology of dialectical and historical materialism. They represent the principal challenge facing our society, and it will be impossible for us to resolve them at a stroke. Only an active and sustained effort will bear fruit. We must aim to solve problems and reach our goals and adopt a holistic approach. We should spare no effort to consolidate our foundations, leverage our strengths, and address our weaknesses so as to promote the comprehensive, balanced, and sustainable economic and social development of our country. Second, we should truly understand the people's expectation for a better life and target our solutions at imbalanced and insufficient development. Shortages and insufficient supply, which plagued our economy in the past, have been fully addressed. The people's expectations have evolved in general from satisfying basic needs to improving the quality of life, and their demands at different levels and in various areas are becoming more diverse. Some non-pressing problems in the past have become more severe today as the people's expectations have risen. We should be more aware of these problems, and our ability to solve them has to increase accordingly. We should ensure and improve the people's well-being through development. Address the most pressing and immediate issues that concern them the most. Better meet their desire for a better life, promote well-rounded personal development and comprehensive social progress, and achieve more substantial progress in promoting prosperity for all. Third, we should be well aware of the fundamentals of our long-term economic growth and be more confident in addressing imbalanced and insufficient development. At present, the economy is facing unprecedented difficulties under the combined impact of periodical and structural factors, short-term and long-term problems, and the COVID-19 epidemic and external pressure. However, the epidemic will not last forever, and the virus can be contained. External pressure compels us to strengthen our capacity for independent innovation and the economic fundamentals sustaining our country's sound development remain unchanged. Firm party leadership and the strength of our socialist system in concentrating resources on major projects guarantee our country's steady and sustainable economic growth and social stability. For a long time, the solid material foundations we have laid, a wealth of talent, a complete industrial system, strengths in science and technology, and the world's largest market with the greatest potential, have underpinned our economic growth and our defenses against external risks. With a comprehensive analysis of the domestic and international situation, we are still in an important period of strategic opportunity which will continue, but the challenges and opportunities keep changing. When we first spoke of a period of strategic opportunity, we referred to the first 2 decades of this century. Now, after 20 years, how shall we address new challenges and opportunities? This is a major issue we need to consider. In the past, it was easier to seize the opportunities as we sailed with the current. It has become harder now, as we are moving forward against the wind. It was not difficult to identify risks and challenges in a relatively stable environment. Now, we are facing a volatile and complex global situation. Geopolitical challenges, like high waves, submerged reefs, and numerous undercurrents, require us to better adapt to changes. In the past, our lower-level development could be seen as more complementary to other countries. Now, at a much higher level, we have become more competitive with others. Therefore, our judgment is that there currently exist both crises and opportunities. Opportunities are nurtured in crises, and crises can turn into opportunities. The opportunities are more strategic and promising. The challenges are more complex and bear on our overall situation. The challenges are unprecedented, but they can turn into extraordinary opportunities if we respond with ingenuity. The COVID-19 pandemic is such an example. We still remember the urgency and the intense pressure when it broke out earlier this year. More than 6 months have passed. Far from being beaten down by the virus, with our exemplary anti-epidemic effort, we will be the only major economy to restore growth this year. Our country's comprehensive strength and international influence have risen significantly despite the epidemic. We should reflect on the reasons for this and learn from the whole experience. In short, the 14th five-year plan period 2021 to 2025 will be a critical time for China to achieve further and greater development. We should seize opportunities while guarding against potential risks. We should accurately understand the current changes we face, seize the initiative in building an effective response, and ultimately be the ones to seek change. We should be bold and set our sails for a headwind and be ready to turn crises into opportunities. On the journey towards a modern socialist country in all respects, a great beginning beckons. Follow the Chinese path to modernization. Part of this speech at the second full assembly of the 5th plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee, October 29th, 2020. China's socialist modernization has many particular characteristics. There is no such thing as a single authorized model of modernization, nor a universally applicable standard of modernization. Deng Xiaoping once said, "The modernization we are striving for is modernization of a Chinese type. The socialism we are building is a socialism with Chinese characteristics." Footnote 1. Deng Xiaoping. We are on the right track and our policies will not change. Selected works of Deng Xiaoping, Volume 3, English edition, Foreign Languages Press, Beijing, 1994, page 39, end of footnote 1. While sharing some common characteristics with other countries, our modernization has some unique features adapted to the realities of China. First, our modernization is for a huge population. Success in modernizing a country of 1.4 billion people, a population that exceeds in size the combined total of all the developed countries, will completely change the international landscape and have a far-reaching impact on humanity. Second, our modernization aims at common prosperity for everyone, which is an essential requirement of Chinese socialism. Committed to the people-centered philosophy of development in our drive for modernization, we have proactively addressed regional divides, disparities between urban and rural areas, and the gap in income distribution. We have promoted social fairness and justice, worked towards common prosperity for all our people, and stood firmly against polarization between rich and poor. Third, our modernization balances material and cultural ethical progress. It upholds the core socialist values, strengthens education on ideals and convictions, spreads a splendid traditional culture, boosts people's moral strength, and fosters material abundance and the well-rounded development of all. Fourth, our modernization features a harmonious coexistence between humanity and nature. When we modernize our country, we strive to synergize material and eco-environmental progress and follow a path of sound development that ensures growth, better lives, and a good environment. Otherwise, the pressure on resources and the environment will simply become unbearable. Fifth, our modernization follows a path of peaceful development. Some of the old capitalist countries pursued modernization through violent exploitation of colonies and at the cost of other countries' development. In contrast, our modernization emphasizes mutual benefit with other countries, strives for a global community of shared future, and works to deliver peace and development to humanity. Past experience shows that the Chinese path to modernization fits China's realities. It respects the laws governing the development of socialism and human society. We should press ahead with our modernization to drive forward our national rejuvenation and contribute more to humanity. Speech at the National Conference to review the fight against poverty and commend outstanding individuals and groups. February 25th. 2021. Comrades and friends, today at this conference we solemnly declare that through the efforts of the whole party and the entire nation, China has secured a complete victory in its fight against absolute poverty in this important year, with the centenary of the Communist Party of China fast approaching. All of the 99 million rural residents who were lying below the current poverty line have emerged from poverty, as have the 832 counties and 128,000 villages. All regional poverty has been eliminated, and the arduous task of eradicating absolute poverty has been completed, representing yet another astounding achievement. This is a great and glorious success for the Chinese people, for the CPC, and for the Chinese nation. Here, on behalf of the CPC Central Committee, I would like to extend my warm congratulations to the exemplary individuals and groups who have been honored. My greatest respect goes to all those who have contributed to the fight against poverty, including party, government, and military bodies at all levels, enterprises and public institutions, village-level organizations, party members, officials, and people in rural areas, first secretaries and members of resident work teams in villages and volunteers, various political parties, federations of industry and commerce, and prominent individuals without party affiliation, people's groups, other people from all sectors of society. Finally, I would like to express heartfelt gratitude to our compatriots in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, the Macau Special Administrative Region, and Taiwan, as well as those overseas who have actively supported and participated in the fight against poverty, and to foreign governments, international organizations, and friends from all over the world who have shown concern and offered support for China's poverty reduction efforts. Comrades and friends, poverty is a problem that has long plagued humanity. Throughout history, combating poverty has remained an important matter of governance for countries around the world. The history of China is a chronicle of the Chinese people's struggle against poverty. A deep longing to see the people free of poverty and well-fed and clothed was expressed by great historical figures, such as Chu Yuan, who lamented, "Long did I sigh to hold back tears, saddened I am by the grief of my people." Footnote 1. Chu Yuan, The Lament, Li Sao, Chu Yuan, circa 339 to 278 BC, was a poet and statesman in the Warring States period. End of footnote 1. Du Fu wrote forlornly, "If only I could build a house with thousands upon thousands of rooms, I would bring all the poor people on the earth under its roof, and bring smiles to their faces." Footnote 2. Du Fu, Song of the Thatched Cottage Broken by the Autumn Wind, Mao Wu Wei Qiu Feng Suo Po Ge. Du Fu, 712 to 770, was a poet of the Tang Dynasty. End of footnote 2. Dr. Sun Yat-sen yearned to see every family living in plenty, with not a single person left behind. Footnote 3. Sun Yat-sen, Declaration for a Military Government. Selected Works of Sun Yat-sen, Volume 1, Chinese Edition, People's Publishing House, Beijing, 2011, page 82. End of footnote 3. From the middle of the 19th century, China suffered political upheaval and incessant conflict due to the decadence of feudal rule and the aggression of Western powers. As the Chinese people struggled to earn their livelihood, the nightmare of poverty became an even greater torment. Escaping poverty thus became their constant goal and an important part of realizing the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation. From the outset, the CPC has pursued its mission of seeking happiness for the people and rejuvenation for the Chinese nation. It has shown steadfast commitment, uniting the people, and leading them in a long and arduous struggle for a better life. During the New Democratic Revolution, 1919 to 1949, the CPC united the peasants and led them in overthrowing local tyrants and dividing up the land, put into effect the policy of land to the tiller, and helped liberate those living in destitution. Winning broad support from the vast majority of the people, it went on to secure victory in the Chinese Revolution and ultimately founded the People's Republic of China. This created the political base for eradicating poverty in China. After the founding of the PRC in 1949, the CPC united the people and led them in completing the Socialist Revolution, establishing and developing socialism as the country's fundamental system, and engaging in national construction. It mobilized the people and encouraged them to be self-reliant and work hard to bring order to the country and to make it strong. This laid solid foundations for shaking off poverty and improving the lives of the people. After the launch of reform and opening up in 1978, the CPC united the people and led them in carrying out well-conceived and well-organized initiatives for development-driven poverty alleviation on a massive scale, and devoted itself to releasing and developing productive forces and to ensuring and improving public well-being, achieving remarkable and unprecedented results in the process. Since the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, the Central Committee has made it clear that in building a moderately prosperous society, in all respects, the most arduous tasks are to be found in rural areas, particularly impoverished rural areas, and that this goal cannot be considered complete unless these areas have reached moderate prosperity. The Central Committee has also emphasized that poverty is not compatible with socialism, and that if impoverished areas were to remain poor and unchanged for a long time, with no noticeable improvement to people's lives, then there would be no grounds for asserting the superiority of China's socialist system. This, too, would be contrary to socialism, and therefore we must lose no time in the fight against poverty. At the end of 2012, not long after the party's 18th National Congress, the Central Committee stated, "The measurement for moderate prosperity lies in the rural areas." It pledged that not a single poverty-stricken area or individual would be left behind, and this launched the battle against poverty in the new era. In 2013, the Central Committee introduced the concept of targeted poverty alleviation and created new working mechanisms for poverty alleviation. At the Central Conference on Poverty Alleviation and Development in 2015, overall requirements were raised for fulfilling the objectives of the fight against poverty. Standards were set in 6 areas to ensure the precision of the work: identifying the poor accurately, arranging targeted programs, utilizing capital efficiently, taking household-based measures, dispatching first-party secretaries based on village conditions, and achieving the set goals. The Central Committee launched 5 key measures through which people would be lifted out of poverty: new economic activities, relocation from uninhabitable areas, recompense for eco-protection, education, and social assistance for basic needs. This sounded the call for a general offensive to win the battle against poverty. At the 19th CPC National Congress in 2017, comprehensive plans were drawn up to achieve targeted poverty alleviation, as poverty, pollution, and major risks had been identified as the targets of 3 critical battles. To achieve the goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects, the CPC focused its efforts on breaking through the last strongholds of absolute poverty and securing a decisive victory in this battle. In 2020, the Central Committee called on the whole party and the entire nation to work even harder and with greater determination to effectively meet the challenges posed by COVID-19 and severe flooding, and to march with full confidence towards the final victory in the battle against poverty. Over the past 8 years, the Central Committee has made the battle against poverty a top priority in national governance and a fundamental component of moderate prosperity, and mobilized all the people to work to this end. With determination, endurance, and the courage to take on tough challenges, the party and the people have liberated one stronghold after another from the grips of poverty, achieving a great and historic success. The entire rural poor population has emerged from poverty, a key contribution towards the goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects. Every year since 2012, an average of more than 10 million people, equivalent to the population of a medium-sized country, have escaped from poverty. Poor people have seen their incomes grow by a significant margin while their basic food and clothing needs have been guaranteed, and their access to compulsory education, basic medical services, and safe housing and drinking water has been ensured. More than 20 million poor people with health issues have received proper treatment, and families that were once haunted by the specter of serious illness have been freed from that burden. Nearly 20 million impoverished people have received subsistence allowances or assistance and support for the extremely poor. More than 24 million people with disabilities who faced financial difficulties and people with severe disabilities have received living or nursing subsidies. More than 1.1 million impoverished people have become forest wardens, earning their livelihood by protecting the environment. Whether on the snowy plateau, in the Gobi Desert, or under the shade of cliffs and mountains, the poverty eradication campaign has reached every corner of the country, helping countless people transform their future, realize their dream, and find a better life. Areas that have been the target of poverty alleviation efforts have taken great strides to catch up in terms of economic and social development and experienced dramatic and historic change. In impoverished areas, the pace of development has accelerated, economic strength has grown, and infrastructure has developed in leaps and bounds. At the same time, great progress has been made with social programs and long-standing problems that have made it hard in the past for people to move around, attend school, seek medical attention, access safe drinking water and electricity, and communicate with the outside world have finally been resolved. School dropouts from registered poor families during the compulsory education stage have come back to school. Where conditions permit, all towns, townships, and villages have been connected to paved roads and provided with bus and postal services. An additional 1.1 million kilometers of rural roads have been built or upgraded, and 35,000 kilometers of new rail lines have been built. Reliability of power grids in impoverished rural areas has reached 99%, while 100% of poor villages on major grids are now connected to three-phase power. The provision of both fiber optics and 4G connections to poor villages has surpassed 98%. Unsafe housing occupied by 7.9 million households, representing almost 26 million poor people, has been renovated. 35,000 residential communities and 2.66 million housing units have been built for more than 9.6 million people who have emerged from poor, isolated, and backward places. Many villagers have bid farewell to rope crossings as bridges are built over the rift valleys, to bitter and saline water as they now have clean water to drink, and to houses built of beaten earth and straw that were exposed to the elements as they have moved into bright and spacious new homes built of brick and tile. Millions of children from poor families now have more equitable educational opportunities and no longer have to endure the daily trek to class now that they can board at school. All the 28 ethnic groups with smaller populations have been lifted out of poverty. Some of these ethnic groups, who transitioned directly from primitive to socialist society after the founding of the PRC, skipping forward 1,000 years of social evolution, have now made a second historic leap from poverty and backwardness to all-around moderate prosperity. All of the last strongholds of poverty in deeply impoverished areas have been breached, and in the areas that have exited poverty, beauty and change can be seen everywhere one goes. People who have shaken off poverty are thriving, with the confidence and courage to rely on themselves. The fight against poverty has yielded gratifying results both in the material sense and the psychological sense. Those who have been lifted out of poverty have been instilled with the drive to keep pushing forward, while the core socialist values and healthy conduct have spread and taken root in society. The desire to do hard, solid work and build a happier life with one's own hands has become the norm in poverty-stricken areas. Party Secretary Mao Xianglin of Xiazhuang Village in Wushan County, Chongqing, led the locals in a 7-year effort to carve a path along precipitous cliffs to the outside world. He said, "It was gratifying to widen and lengthen the mountain path, inch by inch and foot by foot. Even if our generation has to endure poverty and hardship for another decade, we are resolved to ensure that the next generation lives a better life." Zhang Shundong, a disabled yet determined villager from Pingzi village in Dongchuan district, Kunming, Yunnan province, said, "Though we are impaired physically, we are not impaired in spirit. We still have brains to think and hands to work." The mental fortitude of poor people has been honed and reinforced in the fight against poverty. Now, with firmer confidence, keener minds, and greater ambition, their external and internal transformation is complete. The relationship between the party and the public and between officials and ordinary people have improved significantly, consolidating the foundations of CPC governance in rural areas. Heeding the call of the Central Committee, party members and organizations at all levels have spared no effort to accomplish their missions and taken action to make good on their promises. In the fight against poverty, which has been no less of a battle despite the lack of gun smoke, they have sown with painstaking effort and harvested rich results. Poverty alleviation officials have worked for others at the expense of their own families and formed bonds of friendship and cooperation with the impoverished people they have served. They have worked tirelessly and put in extra hours all year round, endured the strain and fatigue of their posts, and stepped up at crucial moments to face challenges head-on, visiting countless families across the country through their effort and devotion. They have made their way up the highest mountains, trekked the most perilous roads, visited the most remote villages, and stayed with the poorest families, whatever the need was greatest. That is where they have been found hard at work. Here, I would like to quote two village officials. As long as I am still standing, I will always work for the people of this village. I will see them live a better life. As a CPC member, I must lead the people in weeding out the roots of poverty. Grassroots party organizations have played their key role. In their efforts to strengthen the CPC and promote poverty eradication, they have honed their best qualities, become stronger and more cohesive, and added to their capacity for governance. People in poverty-stricken areas have listened to the party, sensed its support, and followed its lead. Here are a few relevant quotes. With party members taking the lead and us following that lead, there is hope that poverty will be eliminated. We love to hang the national flag because there is no better symbol of good fortune. Just as he who drinks the water cannot forget who has dug the well, we cannot forget the party for helping us escape poverty. All this is evidence that the relationships between the party and the public and between officials and ordinary people have been greatly strengthened. China has set an example and made a significant contribution to global poverty reduction. Casting off poverty has always been a prominent issue in global development and governance. Since the launch of reform and opening up, China has lifted 770 million rural poor out of poverty according to current standards, and contributed to more than 70% of global poverty reduction during this period according to the World Bank's International Poverty Line. It should be highlighted that even with severe global poverty and increasing polarization between rich and poor in certain countries, China has achieved the poverty reduction target set in the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development 10 years ahead of schedule, winning wide acclaim from the international community. We have actively conducted international cooperation on poverty reduction, fulfilled our international obligations, provided other developing countries with all possible assistance, and acted as a champion for global poverty reduction. No other country throughout history has been able to lift hundreds of millions out of poverty in such a short period of time. This achievement is China's, but it also belongs to the world, and has contributed Chinese strength to the development of a global community of shared future. Over the past 8 years, I have presided over 7 central conferences on poverty alleviation, carried out more than 50 inspection tours on poverty alleviation work, and visited 14 contiguous impoverished areas. In the process, I have endeavored to see poverty in its rawest form and to find out how poverty alleviation measures are being carried out, providing tangible assistance to the people who really need it, and delivering genuine outcomes. I have spoken with poor people face to face and in great detail about their lives and experienced firsthand the tremendous changes brought about by the fight against poverty. In places across the country, I have seen people who have escaped poverty smiling from the heart. These smiles are the greatest affirmation of the fight against poverty, the best possible reward for the dedicated work of party members and officials, and the ultimate tribute to the revolutionaries and martyrs that came before us. Comrades and friends, trying times make heroes out of ordinary men and women. Millions of officials have devoted themselves to the battle against poverty and done hard and solid work. They have empathized with impoverished people, lived in their villages, and worked alongside them. They have given their prime to the cause of poverty alleviation and performed many exemplary deeds. Among them are Li Baoguo, who dedicated himself to poverty alleviation in the Taihang Mountains for 35 years, like the foolish old man in the ancient fable who conquered the mountains through his persistence. Zhang Guai-mei, who ignited hope among girls living deep in the mountains through her commitment to education. Huang Da-fa, who made good on his promise that he would complete his village canal even if it cost him his life. Huang Wen-xiu, who returned from the city to work in her hometown, lighting a new path for young people in the new era. Huang Shi-yan, who fought poverty with his life and fell in the line of duty. all the other exemplary individuals and groups being honored here today. Allow me to quote some of them. On the road that has led millions upon millions of people out of poverty, I was really just a tiny cobblestone, though we went through bitter hardship to get where we are today. Its acrid aftertaste has been dispelled by the sweetness of success. Farmers will only trust you and listen to you if you show them that you are not out for personal gain. You are only truly capable if you can take what you have learned and put it into practice on this land. In the fight against poverty, more than 1,800 party members laid down their lives for the ideals that we as communists have always cherished. Their sacrifice will go down in history and will never be forgotten by the party, the people, or our country. Party committees and governments at all levels should show care and compassion to the families of those who have given their lives and do all they can to make their noble spirit and their exploits widely known. They should serve as examples to inspire officials and the public to make brave new advances toward the second centenary goal. Comrades and friends, we have won international acclaim for our achievements in the fight against poverty. These achievements would not have been possible without the strong leadership of the CPC, the Chinese people's spirit of self-reliance and hard work, the solid material foundations laid down since the founding of the PRC, and particularly since the launch of reform and opening up, the perseverance and dedication of one official after another, and the concerted efforts of all the party members and all the Chinese people. Based on our national conditions and our understanding of the structures underlying poverty alleviation, we have adopted a series of distinctive policies and measures, established a whole set of effective policies, working mechanisms and systems, pioneered a unique Chinese path to poverty reduction, and formed a Chinese theory on fighting poverty. We have upheld the leadership of the CPC to provide solid political and organizational guarantees for the fight against poverty. We have upheld the centralized, unified leadership of the Central Committee over the fight against poverty, and planned and promoted related initiatives as part of the five-sphere integrated plan and the four-pronged comprehensive strategy. We have strengthened the working mechanism under which the central leadership makes overall plans. Provincial authorities assume overall responsibilities, and city and county authorities take charge of implementation. We have worked to ensure that secretaries of party committees at the provincial, city, county, township, and village levels tackled poverty alleviation as a major priority and that all party members were mobilized in the fight. We have put in place a system whereby top leaders of the party and government bodies take full responsibility for the fight against poverty, with the leaders of 22 provincial level administrative units in the central and western regions, signing pledges to the central authorities that they would achieve their objectives. Furthermore, we arranged that party and government chiefs of impoverished counties would not be moved to new posts while poverty eradication efforts were ongoing in their areas. We have worked to build up village organizations led by the party organizations at the same level and to strengthen village-level party organizations, so that they can be more effective in leading the people out of poverty. We have sent our best teams to the main battlefields of the fight against poverty, assigning 255,000 work teams and more than 3 million first secretaries and officials to villages nationwide, where they worked on the front lines alongside nearly 2 million town and township officials and millions of village officials. The bright red flag of the CPC has always flown high on the main battlefields of the fight against poverty. The CPC has proved that it has unparalleled capacity to lead, organize, and implement, and that it is the most reliable force for uniting the people and guiding them to overcome difficulties and forge ahead. As long as we are steadfast in our commitment to upholding the leadership of the party, we will be able to overcome any difficulties or obstacles on the road ahead and fulfill the people's aspirations for a better life. We have adhered to the people-centered development philosophy and followed the path of common prosperity without deviation. To quote an ancient Chinese historian, the key to running a country is to first enrich the people. Footnote. Sima Qian. Records of the historian Shi Ji, Sima Qian, circa 145 or 35 to unknown BC, was a historian and writer of the Western Han Dynasty. End of footnote 4. We have always stood on the side of the people and consistently emphasized that eradicating poverty, improving the people's lives, and achieving common prosperity are essential requirements of socialism. They are important manifestations of the CPC's commitment to its fundamental purpose of serving the people wholeheartedly and major responsibilities of the party and the government. We have made public satisfaction an important measure for the effectiveness of poverty eradication initiatives and focused our efforts on addressing the basic needs of the poor. We have given full play to the guiding role of government investment, cutting back on a number of other major projects to ensure funding for poverty eradication. Over the past 8 years, central, provincial, city, and county governments have earmarked a total of almost renminbi 1.6 trillion for poverty alleviation, of which renminbi 660.1 billion came from the central government. The critical battle against poverty was launched in 2012. The following are some of the funds that have been directed to poverty alleviation. More than renminbi 440 billion from land transfer between and within provinces to ensure cropland acreage and proper land use for construction. More than renminbi 710 billion in microloans and renminbi 668.8 billion in re-lending to help the poor. Renminbi 9.2 trillion in loans for targeted poverty alleviation. More than renminbi 100.5 billion of government fiscal support and non-governmental financial help provided by 9 eastern provinces and municipalities to the areas with which they were collaborating on poverty alleviation. Over renminbi 1 trillion invested in poverty-stricken areas by designated enterprises from the eastern region. We have integrated government funds for rural development, strengthened scrutiny over funds for poverty alleviation, and ensured that the money is used where it is needed most. These investments have provided strong capital guarantees for winning the fight against poverty. Our experience demonstrates clearly that for the undertakings of the party and country to be accomplished, all initiatives must serve our immutable goal, realizing, defending, and developing the fundamental interests of the people, while a conscious effort must be made to ensure that reform and development offer greater benefits to all the people in a fair way. As long as we follow the people-centered development philosophy and keep working year by year to tackle one issue after another, we will be able to make clear and substantial progress in achieving common prosperity for all our people. We have leveraged the strengths of China's socialist system in pooling resources behind major undertakings and are united in will and action to fight poverty. We have mobilized the whole party, the entire nation, and all sectors of society to join the war against poverty. This has allowed us to bring together the strength of the party, the government, the military, the public, and the academic community across the country and channel it towards the fight. We have reinforced collaboration between the eastern and western regions on poverty alleviation, encouraged provinces, cities, and counties to pair up with their counterparts and provide assistance, and promoted the flow of talent, capital, and technology to impoverished areas. We have organized and launched poverty alleviation assistance to designated areas involving all central party and government departments. The other political parties, people's organizations, state-owned enterprises, and the armed forces. We have ensured that all key counties under the National Development-Driven Poverty Alleviation Initiative can turn to somebody for help. Different industries and sectors have brought their specializations to bear to fight poverty through the development of local businesses, science and technology, education, cultural programs, and health services, and by boosting the consumption of products and services from poor areas. Private enterprises, social organizations, and individual citizens have enthusiastically participated in poverty alleviation initiatives, and the 10,000 Enterprises Helping 10,000 Villages campaign has built up great momentum. We have established a comprehensive setup for poverty alleviation in which government-sponsored projects, sector-specific programs, and societal assistance supplement each other, as well as a social poverty alleviation system featuring coordination between regions, departments, and organizations in which all of society participates. The tens of millions of positive actions that have helped the poor demonstrate the tremendous compassion of our society. and have merged to form an unstoppable force. CPC leadership and our socialist system have proved to be the fundamental guarantees for withstanding risks and challenges and overcoming difficulties through concerted efforts. As long as we uphold the leadership of the CPC and follow the path of Chinese socialism, we will be able to confront other serious challenges like poverty eradication and advance from victory to victory. We have followed a targeted strategy in poverty alleviation and eliminated the root causes of poverty through development. We have emphasized that a targeted approach is the crux of the fight against poverty. We have committed to precise work in poverty alleviation in terms of the management of target groups, allocation of resources, and provision of assistance, and set up a national registration system to ensure that resources have reached the people and the places that truly needed them. To identify the targets of poverty alleviation, determine who to help and how to help, and make clear how to apply an exit mechanism for those who have emerged from poverty, we have adopted a set of targeted policies tailored to individual villages, households, and people, to their specific conditions, and to the circumstances that made them poor in the first place, so that we can address the root causes of poverty with precision. We have demanded meticulous efforts to ensure that poverty alleviation work hits the target, addresses the problem at its roots, and gets to the families who need it so that the average progress does not mask cases of individual hardship. Through our commitment to development-driven poverty alleviation, under which development is the fundamental approach to eliminating poverty, we have improved conditions and boosted capacity for development, bringing about a shift in poverty alleviation from simply injecting help into poverty-stricken areas to enabling these areas to help themselves. This has made development the most effective means of eliminating poverty and the most reliable path towards a better life. We have maintained a keen focus on education as an essential vehicle for helping people out of poverty and towards prosperity, emphasizing that no child should be deprived of education or opportunities and lose out before the race has even begun because they are poor. We have worked hard to give every child the chance to excel in life and done our best to break the chain of intergenerational poverty. Targeted poverty alleviation has proved to be the magic weapon for winning the battle against poverty, while the development-driven approach has emerged as the distinctive feature of China's path to poverty reduction. As long as we stick to targeted and rational methods, impose precise requirements on our work, and continue to address imbalanced and insufficient development through development itself, we will be able to provide a sound path forward and lasting momentum for economic and social development and for improving people's lives. We are committed to mobilizing the enthusiasm, initiative, and creativity of impoverished people so that they have the drive to lift themselves out of poverty. The ancient Chinese philosopher Han Fei-Tzu said, "The key to achieving your aspirations lies not in overcoming others, but in overcoming your own weaknesses." Footnote 5. Han Fei-Tzu. This is a collection of writings by Han Fei. Han Fei, circa 280 to 233 BC, also known as Han Fei-Tzu, was a leading exponent of the legalist school in the late Warring States period. End of footnote 5. Similarly, to shake off poverty, the poor must shake off the mindset of poverty. We have focused on making the people's desire for a better life a strong source of motivation in the fight against poverty. We have helped poor people build the confidence and capacity to help themselves, and seen that their pockets are full and their minds are keen, while encouraging them to lift themselves out of poverty and change their lives by relying on their own hard work and tenacity. We have helped them understand that it is better to put in hard work now than spend more hard years waiting, that they will achieve prosperity as long as they believe in themselves, and that even the weakest in the flock can catch up through perseverance. Our encouragement has warmed their hearts and stirred them into action. To quote two individuals who have risen from poverty, "Now that the state policies are in place, as long as we get to work rather than sit by and wait, we can surely create better lives for ourselves. Life has changed me, and I have changed my life." The people have shown themselves to be the real heroes, and boosting their own drive to be self-reliant and work hard has been vital in arming them to create better lives for themselves. As long as we continue to work for the people, rely on them, respect their principal position and creativity, and tap into their wisdom and strength, we will achieve even greater success. We have promoted the virtues of solidarity and mutual help, creating an atmosphere in which all of society helps those in need. We have encouraged all of society to practice the core socialist values and to keep alive the traditional Chinese virtues of looking out for one another, coming together in times of difficulty, and helping those in need. We have guided all sectors of society in showing care for the poor and concern for the cause of poverty reduction and in committing themselves to the campaign. We have refined mechanisms for mobilizing society, set up platforms for society-wide participation, and created new forms of social assistance so that everybody has the desire, the ability, and the tools to help. The core socialist values and China's fine traditional culture have proved to be a powerful force for rallying people's support and pooling their strength. As long as we remain firm in our moral values, as long as we continue to inspire positive energy that will drive all of society towards goodness and excellence, we will be able to equip the Chinese nation with an inexhaustible source of inner strength with which we can cleave the waves and sail forward. We have persevered with a realistic and pragmatic approach when confronting tough challenges, in order to ensure that our poverty alleviation initiatives reach those who truly need help. We have incorporated the requirement to enforce full and rigorous party self-governance throughout the process and in every aspect of the fight against poverty. With steely determination, we have carried the fight to the end. We have highlighted the need to follow a pragmatic approach, strictly enforce established rules, and avoid becoming bogged down in red tape or being deflected by impractical measures or superficial eye-catching initiatives. We have resolutely opposed approaches that do not address problems properly, indiscriminate distribution of resources without regard for priorities, unrealistic projects pursued solely for show, and pointless formalities and bureaucratism. Instead, we have focused all of our work on addressing the problems of the poor. We have put in place the most rigorous assessments and evaluations possible, worked to address corruption and misconduct in the field of poverty alleviation, and established a comprehensive monitoring system so that the results of our poverty eradication efforts stand the test of time and win the approval of the people. By devoting the majority of our energy to following through with our plans and committing ourselves to doing solid and hard work, we have ensured victory in the fight against poverty. As long as we keep making concrete efforts for the good of our country and our people, we will be able to realize the grand blueprint for building a fully modern socialist country one step at a time. The important knowledge and experience we have gained have shaped China's theory on poverty alleviation. They are the latest achievement in adapting Marxist theory on poverty to the Chinese context and a valuable resource that must therefore be preserved and developed over the long term. Comrades and friends, a great cause breeds a great spirit and is in turn guided by it. Our struggle against poverty has forged such a spirit through which we have all come together, put our all into the fight, made precise and pragmatic efforts, launched pioneering initiatives, overcome difficulties, and worked hard to live up to the people's expectations. This is a vivid representation of the nature and purpose of the CPC, the determination of the Chinese people, and the essence of the Chinese nation, a concentrated reflection of patriotism, collectivism, and socialism, a full manifestation of China's spirit, values, and strength, and a confirmation of our great national spirit and our readiness to respond to the call of the times. The whole party, the entire nation, and all of society should carry forward the spirit of the battle against poverty, continue to unite and fight heroically, overcome any difficulties and risks that lie on the road ahead, and achieve new and greater victories in upholding and developing socialism with Chinese characteristics. Comrades and friends, our complete victory in the fight against absolute poverty signifies that a substantial step forward has been made in the CPC's efforts to unite the people and lead them in the pursuit of a better life and common prosperity. At the same time, however, shaking off poverty is not the finish line, but rather the starting point of a new quest and a new endeavor. We still have a long way to go to solve the problem of imbalanced and insufficient development, narrow the gap between urban and rural areas, and between regions, and achieve well-rounded development and common prosperity for all our people. We cannot therefore be complacent or rest on our laurels. We must build on our current momentum, make further efforts, and keep fighting. As an old Chinese saying goes, the most difficult part of victory is not the winning, but the sustaining. Footnote 6. Huainanzi. This is a collection of writings by scholars of different schools of philosophy, compiled in the Western Han Dynasty under the patronage of Liu An, 179 to 122 BC, Prince of Huainan. End of footnote 6. We must take concrete steps to consolidate and expand upon the outcomes of the fight against poverty as part of our effort to promote rural revitalization, so that the foundations of poverty eradication are more solid and the effects are more sustainable. We will carefully monitor populations that are at risk of lapsing or relapsing into poverty and work to ensure early detection, early intervention, and early assistance. We will see that businesses and industries in areas that have escaped poverty are fostered through long-term support to boost sustainable, locally driven development. We will improve follow-up support for people who have been relocated from inhospitable areas, facilitate their employment through multiple channels, strengthen social management, and promote their integration into new communities. To buttress counties that have emerged from poverty, we will institute a transition period during which the main poverty alleviation support policies will generally remain in place. We will continue and improve systems for stationing first secretaries and work teams in villages, promoting cooperation between the eastern and western regions, facilitating assistance through pairing programs, and providing social assistance, and make corresponding adjustments as our circumstances and tasks evolve. The Central Committee has decided that timely arrangements should be made for follow-up assessments on the consolidation of poverty eradication outcomes, and that party committees and governments at all levels should be held accountable for consolidating these achievements, so as to ensure that people do not return to poverty in large numbers. Rural revitalization is a major strategy for bringing about our national rejuvenation. New circumstances and requirements arise as we seek to ground ourselves in this new development stage, apply the new development philosophy, and foster a new development dynamic under the new circumstances and requirements to address problems related to agriculture, rural areas, and rural people will be our party's top priority. The development of agriculture and rural areas will come first. We will follow a Chinese socialist path to rural revitalization and continue to narrow the development gaps between urban and rural areas and between regions, so that low-income people and less developed areas can share in the fruits of development and catch up in the process of modernization rather than falling behind. Comprehensively implementing the rural revitalization strategy will be no less of a challenge than the fight against poverty in terms of depth, breadth, and difficulty. We must therefore improve our policies, working mechanisms, and systems. We will adopt more forceful measures and pool more formidable strength to accelerate agricultural and rural modernization, promote quality and efficiency in agriculture, make rural areas attractive places to live and work in, and see that rural residents become more prosperous. On our new journey towards a modern socialist country, we must raise the common prosperity of all our people to a more prominent position, doing consistent results-oriented work as we make more active and effective efforts towards this goal. We must promote the well-rounded development of individuals together with all-round social progress and ensure that our people always have a strong sense of gain, fulfillment, and security. Comrades and friends, looking back, we have achieved a great and historic success in solving the problem of absolute poverty that plagued the Chinese nation for thousands of years. We have created a miracle in the history of poverty reduction. Looking ahead, we are now striving towards the goal of building an all-round modern socialist country. The journey will be long, and all we can do is keep fighting and move forward. The whole party and the entire nation must unite more closely around the central leadership and dedicate ourselves to doing solid work. We must display confidence, determination, and an indomitable spirit as we advance towards the second centenary goal. Make solid progress towards common prosperity. Part of the speech at the 10th meeting of the Commission for Financial and Economic Affairs under the CPC Central Committee, August 17, 2021. Following the launch of reform and opening up in 1978, through a thorough review of both positive and negative experiences, our party came to a clear understanding that poverty is incompatible with socialism and began to break conventional institutional constraints, encourage some people in some regions to become prosperous first, and unleash and develop the productive forces. Since the 18th CPC National Congress held in 2012, The Central Committee has identified the changes in a new stage of development and given greater weight to achieving common prosperity for all our people. Strong measures have been adopted to promote coordinated development across different regions, ensure and improve people's well-being, eradicate absolute poverty, and achieve moderate prosperity, thereby creating favorable conditions for bringing about prosperity for all. Currently, we are in the stage of taking concrete steps towards common prosperity. Now, we are working towards the second centenary goal to build China into a modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, culturally advanced, harmonious, and beautiful by the centenary of the PRC in 2049. To adapt to the principal challenge facing Chinese society as it evolves, and to meet the growing expectation of the people for a better life and work for happiness for all of our people, we must focus on promoting common prosperity, which will in turn strengthen the foundations of our party's long-term governments. High-quality development requires a high-caliber workforce. Only by promoting common prosperity, raising urban and rural income levels, and boosting human capital can we increase total factor productivity and create the driving force for high-quality development. Currently, income inequality has become a glaring problem worldwide. In some countries, the wealth gap is widening and the middle class is shrinking, resulting in social disintegration, political polarization, and a surge of populism. This is a profound lesson. China must prevent polarization between the rich and the poor, promote common prosperity, and ensure social harmony and stability. At the same time, we must be fully aware that China's development remains strikingly imbalanced and insufficient, as seen in the wide gaps in income distribution between urban and rural areas and between regions. A new revolution in science, technology, and industry has significantly boosted the economy and has had a profound impact on employment and income distribution, including some negative consequences that we must address and resolve. Achieving common prosperity is a basic requirement of socialism and an important feature of the Chinese path to modernization. The common prosperity that we pursue, both material and cultural, is for all of our people. It is not for a small minority, nor does it imply an absolute equality in income distribution that takes no account of contribution. Based on thorough research, we should map out phased goals of common prosperity for different development stages. By 2025, the end of the 14th five-year plan period, 2021 to 2025, a solid step will have been taken towards common prosperity, steadily narrowing the gap between people's income and consumption. By 2035, more substantial progress will have been made in promoting common prosperity, ensuring equal access to basic public services. By the middle of the 21st century, common prosperity for all will have largely been achieved, narrowing the gap between people's income and consumption to a reasonable level. To realize the above phased goals, we must lose no time in devising an action plan that contains an effective system of indicators and a set of evaluation methods suited to China's actual conditions. In promoting common prosperity, we must uphold the following four principles: encouraging people to pursue prosperity through hard work and innovation. A happy life is earned by hard work. Common prosperity is achieved through diligence and ingenuity. We must seek to ensure and improve people's well-being through development and prioritize high-quality development. We will create more inclusive and equitable conditions for all to receive a better education, so as to improve their capacity for development. We will also improve China's human capital and the professional skills, employability, entrepreneurial competency, and the ability to create wealth through its workforce. We must encourage social mobility, facilitate smooth channels for people to move up the social ladder, and create opportunities for more people to become prosperous. The aim is to create an enabling environment in which everyone participates. We do not want a rat race, nor do we want a society of layabouts. Upholding the basic economic system. As China remains in the primary stage of socialism, we must consolidate and develop the public sector and at the same time encourage, support, and guide development of the non-public sector. We must follow the principle that public ownership plays the dominant role while developing together with other forms of ownership. We should give full play to the key role of the public sector in promoting common prosperity, and at the same time facilitate the sound development of a non-public sector and of people working in that sector. We should encourage part of the population to prosper first and urge these people to guide and help the rest on their way to a better life. We should encourage people to become leaders in pursuing a better life through hard work, bold entrepreneurship, and lawful business operation. Accumulating wealth through dubious means must not be encouraged, and any action that breaks laws or regulations must be punished in accordance with the law. Doing everything within our capacity, we must establish a system of sound public policies and a rational distribution system in which everyone enjoys a fair share of benefits. We should adopt more robust and solid measures so that people have a greater sense of gain. At the same time, we must be aware that there is still a wide development gap between China and the developed countries. We should strike a balance between what is necessary and what is feasible, securing and improving people's well-being on the basis of ensuring economic growth and financial sustainability. We will not set unrealistic goals, neither will we make unfulfillable promises. The government cannot take on everything. Instead, it should focus on providing inclusive public services, meeting people's essential needs, and ensuring basic living standards for people in difficulty. Even in the future, when China develops further to a higher level and has more financial resources, we should still not set overambitious goals, nor should we provide excessive social benefits, otherwise we will slip into the trap of encouraging idlers by providing excessive welfare. Pursuing incremental progress. Common prosperity is a long-term goal. It takes time and is a step-by-step process. It cannot be achieved overnight. We should be fully aware of the long duration, arduous nature, and complexity of this mission. It can neither wait nor be rushed. Some developed countries have been pursuing industrialization for centuries but have not achieved common prosperity due to institutional and systemic problems. Instead, they are facing an ever-widening gap between the rich and the poor. We must have the patience to do things well, practically, and efficiently, one step at a time. We should work hard on the project of the Zhejiang Demonstration Zone for Common Prosperity through high-quality development, encourage all localities to explore feasible and effective approaches to common prosperity in light of their local conditions and their distinctive strengths, sum up their experience, and then steadily roll out their successful experience nationwide. The overarching principle is to uphold the people-centered development philosophy and promote common prosperity through high-quality development. We must balance efficiency and fairness in income distribution and devise an institutional framework within which distribution, redistribution, and third distribution are coordinated and operate in parallel. Efforts should be intensified to improve the role of taxation, social security, and transfer payments in adjusting income distribution, particularly for targeted social groups. The proportion of the middle-income group in the entire population should be increased. The low-income group should have their incomes raised. The high-income group should have their incomes reasonably readjusted, and illicit income should be confiscated so as to form an olive-shaped distribution structure. The goal is to increase social fairness and justice, promote well-rounded development of the individual, and enable the people to make solid progress towards common prosperity. To achieve this goal, it will take the following measures. First, pursue more balanced, coordinated, and inclusive development. We will quicken our pace in improving the socialist market economy and seek more balanced, coordinated, and inclusive development. We will balance regional development by implementing major regional development strategies and the strategy for coordinated regional development by improving the transfer payment system to narrow regional disparities in terms of per capita fiscal expenditure, and by giving more support to underdeveloped areas. We will coordinate the development of various industries by accelerating the reform of monopolies and by coordinating the development of finance and real estate with the real economy. We will support the development of small and medium-sized enterprises and create a business ecosystem in which small, medium-sized, and large enterprises are interdependent and mutually reinforcing. Second, enlarge the middle-income group. We will focus on priorities, implement targeted policies, and help more low-income people to join the middle-income group. University graduates have high prospects of entering the middle-income bracket. We will improve the quality of higher education, ensure that university graduates acquire expertise and useful knowledge, and help them to adapt to the needs of social development as early as possible. Technicians are an important component of the middle-income group. We will train more skilled personnel, raise the incomes of technicians, and attract more high-caliber people to join their ranks. Owners of small and medium-sized enterprises and self-employed individuals are major contributors to entrepreneurial growth. We will improve the business environment, cut taxes and fees, and provide more market-oriented financial services so as to help them to maintain steady business operations and achieve sustained revenue growth. Rural migrant workers in urban areas constitute a major source of the middle-income group. We will further reform the household registration system, improve access to education for children of migrant workers who have moved with them from rural areas to cities, and enable rural migrant workers to settle and acquire stable employment in cities. We will raise the incomes of public servants as appropriate, particularly those on the frontline posts at the grassroots level and low-level employees of state-owned enterprises and institutions. We will increase people's income from property such as urban and rural housing estates, rural land estates, and financial assets. Third, promote equitable access to basic public services. The low-income group should be the priority in our efforts to achieve common prosperity. We will increase investment in human capital to cover all social groups, reduce the burden of education costs on families with financial difficulties, and raise the education level of children from low-income households. We will improve the pension and healthcare security systems by bridging the financial and benefit gaps between working and non-working populations in the city and between urban and rural populations, and by steadily increasing the basic pension level for both urban and rural residents. We will improve the social assistance system to help those most in need, reduce disparities in assistance standards for urban and rural residents, and steadily increase subsistence allowances for both urban and rural populations to meet their basic needs. We will improve the housing supply and security systems, acting on the principle that housing is for living and not for speculation. We will improve access to both rental and purchased properties, adopt city-specific policies, refine policies for long-term rental housing, increase the supply of government-subsidized rental housing, and ensure housing security for new urban residents. Fourth, adopt rigorous measures to regulate and adjust high incomes. While protecting legitimate incomes in accordance with the law, we must prevent polarization and eliminate unfair income distribution. We will adjust excessive incomes as appropriate, improve the system of individual income tax, and standardize the management of capital gains. We will actively yet prudently proceed with legislation and reform on property tax through pilot programs. We will improve the regulatory function of excise taxes and consider expanding their scope. We will better regulate public welfare undertakings and charitable endeavors, improve preferential taxation policies, and encourage high-income individuals and enterprises to do more to give back to society. We will bring excessive incomes under control, strengthen management of income distribution in monopolized industries and SOEs, rectify irregularities in income distribution, and prohibit practices such as raising the incomes of senior executives under the guise of reform. We will prohibit illicit income and prevent people from trading power for money. We will take firm action against anyone who makes illicit gains through insider dealing, stock market manipulation, financial fraud, tax evasion, and so forth. After years of experimentation, we have developed a complete package of measures to end absolute poverty, but we still need to build up experience on how to achieve prosperity. We must strengthen the protection of property rights and intellectual property rights and ensure that the pursuit of legitimate wealth is protected. We must firmly oppose unbridled expansion of capital, establish negative lists for access to sensitive fields, and tighten regulation and supervision of monopolies. At the same time, we must mobilize the initiative of entrepreneurs and promote sound and well-regulated development for all types of capital. Fifth, promote common cultural prosperity. Bringing prosperity to all is congruous with our goal of promoting well-rounded human development. We must highlight the guiding role of the core socialist values and strengthen education on patriotism, collectivism, and socialism. By developing public cultural undertakings and improving the public cultural service system, we will continue to meet people's diverse, multi-level, and multifaceted demands in the cultural and intellectual sphere. We must also do a better job of guiding public opinion on common prosperity and clear up any confusion on this matter. We should not shy away from challenges while avoiding the rush for quick results, thereby cultivating a public opinion environment favorable to our pursuit of common prosperity. Sixth, promote common rural prosperity. The most arduous and formidable tasks in promoting common prosperity still lie in rural areas. We must lose no time in pressing ahead with common rural prosperity, but it is inadvisable for us to quantify targets as we did in the poverty alleviation campaign. We will consolidate and build upon the success we have achieved in the fight against poverty. To this end, we will strengthen the monitoring of people at risk of lapsing or relapsing into poverty, and be prepared to take quick action to help them if needed. We will also continue to provide support to counties that have recently shaken off poverty so as to counter new causes of poverty and prevent any large-scale relapse into poverty. In implementing the rural revitalization strategy, we will accelerate agricultural industrialization, put rural assets to effective use, and increase the property income of rural residents, thereby helping more and more of them to become prosperous through hard work. We will also improve rural infrastructure, rural public services, and the rural living environment. To sum up, achieving common prosperity for all is a holistic concept similar in nature to realizing moderate prosperity in all respects. Common prosperity is a goal for all of society, and therefore we should not break it up into separate goals for urban and rural areas, or for eastern, central, and western regions. Instead, we should adopt an overall perspective. In order to enable 1.4 billion people to realize common prosperity, we must maintain a realistic attitude and make a sustained effort. We cannot make everyone wealthy at the same time, nor bring all regions to the same level of wealth simultaneously. There will be different levels of prosperity among different groups of people and different regions, realized on a different time scale. It should be a dynamic process where consistent efforts result in steady progress. End of audiobook part 6.